Throughout the generations, nations have tried to annihilate us as the Jewish people. They've been led by tyrants and wicked individuals who hate the Jewish people and want to remove us from the face of the earth. But how does God allow for that? Well, Bilam tells us, in this week's parasha, the prophet of Midian tells Balak, the king of Moab, that I can only curse the nation if God allows me to do so. I can only do bad to them if God gives me permission, because ultimately I am in His hands. That means that wicked and evil in the world only exists because God allows it to exist. In fact, the Zohar, the famous work of Kabbalah, tells us that it's compared to a king who sends out a prostitute to seduce the prince to sin. The king doesn't want the prostitute to succeed. In fact, the Zohar says the prostitute herself doesn't want the prince to succumb and to fall to temptation. But nonetheless, they put certain things in place in order to test the prince. Let's see how loyal and faithful the prince is to his father, the king. And the way to do that is to test him, to seduce him, to entice him to sin. And so we compare that to the nations of the world, to the tyrants and the Bilams and Balaks of the world. God puts people in the world who are evil and wicked as His messengers to the world. His messengers to test the Jewish people, to see whether we're going to remain faithful and loyal to Him, or whether we're going to lose our faith and lose our trust. Now, the king, God, doesn't want Bilam or any other tyrant to be successful. Even Bilam himself doesn't want to be successful, because ultimately everyone wants the best for us, the Jewish people, the prince, the child of God. But God puts in place certain things that may look evil, they may look wicked, they may look challenging, because ultimately He wants to see if we're going to turn to Him and pray and to connect. Let's not lose our faith. Let's not lose our connection. Let's realize that every hurdle along the way is just another reason and motivation for us to connect to our Father in heaven, to the King, to God. Shabbat Shalom.